The way we experience existence through the physical body results in life being something that feels temporary. It feels temporary because everything we observe is temporary. Because everything that can be observed by the senses is temporary. The senses themselves are temporary. But in reality, life is not temporary. Existence is permanent. Existence is of a spiritual nature. The spiritual nature deals in permanence. Everything that ever happened spiritually to humanity is alive in us. The bodies have disintegrated. The ideas have been forgotten. The experiences are completely different, and yet we inherited everything exactly as it is only because everything before it was the way that it was. Anything would have been different, and what we have now would have been completely different. Every little change in the distant past, a huge shift in how the present is presented. And so we experience life as having a counterpart called death. And this means that we get to have only a little part of the conversation. We get to say something and then we have to leave the stage. We don't really get to see the results of what we planted until we've left the body. The Avos HaKadoshim, the fathers, the mothers of Klal Yisrael, they prepared something very meaningful, something much larger than life. And yet, they didn't get to see the results, they didn't get to see the fruits of their labor, not yet. Spiritually, they're very much alive in each one of us. And yet, their vision, their desire, the beliefs they gave their life for, have not yet materialized. And so this spiritual power, this spiritual perception that reaches deep within the source, that reaches to the perception of the one that desired us to be in the first place. This perception will manifest itself because this is our nature. This is what we were designed to be. We're a young and unripe version of this perfection. This is where we're going to realize what it is that was cooking inside of us that didn't give us rest. There's a future us that wants to be. And he's going to do whatever it takes to become. If we will cooperate, then we will enjoy the process. But if for whatever reason we're distracted and we want something else, then he will ride over our will because his will is more real. His will is directed towards the will of the one who designed us. Our will, if it doesn't match that will, can never be fulfilled. It's an illusion. Were we to receive all the things that we have as our will, we wouldn't feel the way that we imagine we would feel when we have those things. And so our will can only be an illusion. His will feel better than we've ever felt, better than we can imagine ourselves feeling. Because this is the design. This is when the biology works best. Works best for the reality that it is. Works best for the creator that created it. And so the vision of these great people was buried within the human cells. The cells that we've received from our parents. The life force, the genes. The entire process of life that has evolved over thousands of years comes through to each generation, and they each get to experience a piece of the manifestation of the original desire. The desire to create the perfect human being. The human being that was meant to live on this planet. And so, in order to keep these names alive, in order to keep this tradition alive, in order to keep these realities so that they have a continuance, Avraham Avinu buys from Ephron. Ephron is the element of the earth, the physical cells. He buys a place where the holy of all the holies, the ones who are most involved in the correction of humanity, will be alive and continue to exist for future generations. And this purchase is for the land called the Ma'aras HaMachpelah, the cave that is double. The cave on top of a cave. The Zohar says, what's this cave that's on top of a cave? It's the human body that has a cavity in the chest and a cavity in the skull. And within those cavities lives a tradition. Within those cavities lives a reality that is beyond the perception of the one who is perceiving from within those cavities. There's an importance to what's taking place that the one perceiving cannot appreciate unless he develops his organs to become more of what he really is, to become a ripe fruit that can actually experience what's taking place while it's taking place. And so Avraham Avinu buys from Ephron, he buys from the element of earth a human body within which the spiritual treasures can be carried from generation to generation. Within these cavities continues the desire that was envisioned by these great people. These great people allowed their intelligence to lead them towards the intelligence that created them. They knew that nothing can be more worthwhile, nothing can be more fulfilling, nothing can be more true to the needs of the soul, then understanding the real nature of how it's supposed to interact with the body and with reality itself. As long as that's not settled, as long as we don't understand that relationship, everything else that we might know is not going to be enough. And so this cave, this double cave, represents creator and creation, represents observer and observed, represents the relationship that is the basis of all manifest reality. Everything manifest is in a relationship with something unmanifest. Otherwise it wouldn't be here. The manifested universe doesn't have a source that is manifest. The source for everything, the manifest and the unmanifest, the manifest and the potential, the source of all that is in the intelligence that creates all. It's not manifest. It's the extreme opposite of manifest. It's the source of all sources. This is why the world is so upside down. It's because our senses give us an illusion about what existence really is. Our senses make it seem, based on the culture, of course, that interprets the information from the senses, it makes it seem like the physical is the more real. And the reality is that the physical is simply a presentation of the biological organs. There is no physical, it's all information. The eye doesn't see what it presents to us. The eye sees information and presents it this way to us. It doesn't exist. What we see doesn't exist the way that we see it. Color doesn't exist. Matter, if we go deep enough into what's creating it, almost doesn't exist based on what we can see today. And we haven't seen everything yet. Not even close. And so the source, the potential for things to be, that's real. The things that are temporarily real, but they're not really real. It's a choice. There's a structure, there are the rules. There's the way things work that is permanent, that is always, that comes from beyond the reality that we can experience. And then there's the reality we're experiencing. This is already how we're playing with those rules. And so in every situation where we're interacting with the manifest, there's the one that's observing and what's being observed. There's automatically a relationship. It's the nature of manifestation. And how to do this relationship right is the tradition of all the wise people. This is the nature of wisdom, is to understand this relationship appropriately. This relationship continues after we leave this manifested world to different levels of manifestation that from our perspective now we might call the unmanifest. But for those experiencing it, they might call what we're experiencing illusion. And they might believe that they're in the manifested universe. And all of it is right. It's all just a matter of perspective. And so this tradition, this reality, this life force, this capacity to interpret reality that we have is a direct inheritance from those who are resting in the Maras HaMachpelah. This was their intention, this was their reason for giving all their time, all their effort, all their energy. This was what they had in mind with everything that they did. Is to create the appropriate future, because they can't really get to see what they're trying to create. All they have is the efforts that they take while they're still physical, while they're still in the body, and then it will play out. They don't know how it's going to play out. They can just invest their energy. They can plant the right seeds. They can open their hearts in prayer. And then whatever will happen is based on reality reacting to what they did. This is no longer up to the individual. This is the design that was designed prior to the individual coming into the picture. The individual is already one manifestation of this collective, the collective design that all of humanity has to put up with. We're designed a certain way. We're designed in such a way that sometimes we can go sour. That's the type of fruit we are. Which is something we have to realize and face. We don't want to be the sour fruit, but this is the nature of being human. Sometimes we are sour. And so we want to know. We want to know how to do this relationship in a way that we should be sweet, at least as much of the time as we can. It should be an authentic sweetness. We should represent this fruit in a way that makes people proud to be human. We want the value of a human being to rise in every human mind. If humans will think that they're precious, all the other species will agree. And the most important part, the human species will agree. The humans are the most important because they're in charge of this planet. If we have them, we have everything. And so it's on us to make the vision of our forefathers as real as we can, to do our share, to do our part, because we are doing the same thing. We don't know what's going to happen to our effort. We're also just planting a seed. And then we're going to get to see the results of what we planted for a very long time. Long is not even the right word to describe it. It's longer than long. It's many longs together and then some. And so it's meaningful to plant appropriately. It's meaningful. Every single detail is meaningful. Every single betterness is so much better. It's a change in trajectory. It's not simply a one-time deal. Everything will be better after a little more better. All the options change. the spirit gets an upgrade. And suddenly what was impossible is not only possible, it's easy. One change in belief, and suddenly what I was forcing myself to do, I want to do. I wouldn't want to do it any other way. Because when we're aligned with reality, we want to be ourselves. What else could we possibly want? What we want and what reality wants of us is one and the same. The only thing that gets in the way is our misunderstanding of ourselves, our impressions that we received from the outside, our misunderstandings. These misunderstandings get in the way of our ancestors delivering their message coded within our DNA, coded within the life force that exists inside of every Jewish body. This is the real tradition that they gave over to us. This is the reality that they gave over to us, is the life force itself. And the Torah is the instructional manual for this life force, so that we understand this life force, so that we don't forget how important it is, how precious it is, how much it is in charge of in the reality that we're experiencing and beyond, in the realities that we still don't have access to. How much the future is begging us to pay more attention, because we're creating it. And it wants to be created properly. It wants to be created with our full attention. May we all have the merit to find our connection, to find that language that will allow our soul to express itself to us, to find that bridge between the parts of us that are not yet conscious and our perception, our conscious mind, so that we can align ourselves with that truth, so that we can represent that truth, so that we can be something real while we still are, so that we can make a difference to the future that is meaningful, that is kind, that will make us proud, not by our thinking, but by our very nature. It will make our design proud, the way we were designed to be. It will make our species proud, that we're representing ourselves in a way that is real to the core of our being. And this will bring us closer to realizing that vision, the vision that will result in an experience that all of them desired, all of them were working for, all of them were giving their lives for. This experience will become available when we realize our nature more deeply, when we come in contact with the message that they left for us inside our hearts. May it happen soon.